Welcome to Talking Giants presented by DraftKings. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. We got ourselves a nice, full, packed, locked, loaded mailbag podcast coming up on a Thursday mailbag for the people. So listen to it, and then you get the preview on Friday. Justin, how you is?
I'm great.
Why? So I saw that you were like, what? No one asked me why, and I didn't read the replies. Why do you have it?
So this is a Chicago Bears jersey. It's a Reebok Chicago Bears jersey with the number 22.
Did your dad order it for the 2022 draft pick?
Well, it's Reebok. So, I predicted as a child that the Giants would have the 2022 Bears first-round draft pick, and that's why when I was a child, I ordered a number 22 Bears jersey with the name on the back. No, it's actually so I played the game NFL Head Coach 09, and it's funny that we have a question about like what we want like our typical head coach to look like.
I tried playing that game. It was too boring.
Well, I'm a little bit younger than you, so I can imagine like now I wouldn't be able to play it. But, you know, when I was 10, 9, 8, I loved that. Loved that shit. Played it all the time. And
I was in middle school when I hated it.
And I was probably
maybe high school.
No, you were definitely high school because I played it when I was in middle school. And I was a coach of the Chicago Bears, and I led them to a couple Super Bowls. So 22 was also a number that I had when I was a Madden created player for the 49ers. So I thought, why not put a 22 on a Bears jersey?
You're a clown. Speaking of clowns, before we get into this mailbag, this episode was brought to you by a few of our clans. Andrea Baum. Wow, she's in the world beater tier. How about that? Well, thank you, Andrea.
And she's the bomb.
You are the bomb. Bomb. We got Matt Hall 03. I think his regular name is just Matt Hall, no 03. DJ, we a truck. We on track. We on track. DJ. Mac McNally. Cocoa Beach High School, like Stephen McNally Field.
Wow.
Hunter Ford. He's actually crazy. He should be doing a little more than, the $2 a month. He owns half of, Ford, but it is what it is. And then we got another world beater tour, Douglas Falk. And I played for the Falcons in high school, and the announcer, he would say, "Go Falcons," and it sounded like that. So Douglas Falk. Who are these clowns?
Yeah, these clowns. Pat Reon. Pat Reon, that's how you spell patreon.com/talkingiants. 1G. It's not talking. It's talking. It's kind of like the brand. Patreon.com/talkingiants. We have a lot of fun. Got a couple of people hanging out, watching the show tonight. Hanging out. Chances are, we're going to talk to Kadarius Toney about them. We're not talking about Kadarius Toney on the show, so spoiler alert, because we're not the moral police. Patreon.com/talkingiants. We're going to hear us talk about controversial things.
I don't even know why you brought it up. All right, before we get into the mailbag, COVID. Burton Burns got it. The Giants running back coach. Supposedly, he according to Arch Stapleton, that he doesn't really have symptoms and he's all right. Although I will say, we've kind of heard that with every single player or coach in the NFL that they don't have symptoms, and then it's like, all right, well, Hernandez misses half the season, and we find out later, like, that's why. But he's a coach, not a player.
Yeah, just hope he's okay.
Yeah, hope he's all. And he was like, if there was one person you'd be really worried about in the coaching staff, it would be Burton Burns. Like, he's very old.
I think he's the oldest coach.
So to hear that he's not like and like he feeling symptoms was honestly a sigh of relief, because there was not a single other coach on the staff where if they got it, it would be like, oh no.
And he's doing Zoom stuff too.
Bad. So
he's doing Zoom stuff.
Glad he's all right, but. Saquon Barkley and Xavier McKinney are also on the COVID list right now. Now, I don't know if Saquon is going to be back this week or not, but I would expect McKinney's not going to be playing this week, and we'll talk more about how they replace him in the preview pod tomorrow. But that is news. Do you have any they're on the COVID list. It's hard to really have like huge takeaways from it besides that they're on the COVID list.
Stinks. We've said our thoughts about getting COVID and, how it stinks, in the NFL, and also, how many people have gotten it over the last 2 years. So, the thing with McKinney, though, I have a question for you. Late Bebner does the replacement rhyme with those words?
They can't. One, he's injured. They need to really cut him and add an actual safety as depth. I think Adrian Colbert might be out there. We'll talk about it tomorrow, I'm sure.
Ooh,
we'll have
favorite player.
We'll have a bigger picture of what they're going to do. All right, anything else before we kick it to the mailbag?
No, it sucks. I hope Saquon can play because this was the week that he was supposed to be back. Like that Ian Rappaport, around the NFL. I don't know who, one of the NFL pages broke it. That this was the target week for him, and especially with the bye coming up next week, I would like to see Saquon Barkley out on the field. Like, dude, I want to see you out there. So hope he can play.
Yeah. All right, take it away, Steve.
Mail time.
Mail time. The mail's here. Come on. Bye, guys. Here's the mail. It never fails. It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Thanks, Steve from Blues Clues. Justin, let's get into the mail.
Paul Nonis. First question at Paul Nonis. Is there a reasonable hope for Nick Gates and Shane Lemieux to come back and be future pieces for this team, or is Andrew Thomas really the only future O-line option currently on the roster?
Let's start with Nick Gates. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know that's going to happen with Nick Gates. And I'm not even saying, like, oh, it could be career-ending. Like, I don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. It's like it's a major injury now. He's done with surgeries, which is awesome. But, like, we don't know what's going to happen with Nick Gates. So, at the very least, they have to add a center. I'm not saying you, like, a first-round, second-round pick, but it's like you have to have a center in place for if he's hurt, whether that's re-signing Billy Price on the minimum, or Matt Skura. Like, there has to be someone in place. I would prefer Matt Skura over Billy Price, though, to be honest. With Lemieux, I'm gonna say yes, but there needs to be a new starting guard next year, like new, not not Lemieux getting better and will, like, there needs to be at least one new starting guard. And then I would let Lemieux come back and battle with someone else, and either Will Hernandez on another cheap deal, another, cheap veteran they bring in. But, like, have it be a real competition, not Zach Fulton, who's played a lot of games, but who really has no chance at starting. So because, we said before the season, or at least I did, I was like, hey, I got a lot more faith in Lemieux being a good offensive lineman than I do Matt Parrott. And he looked good in limited reps to start the season. So yeah, I would let him come back and battle for a spot. But there absolutely has to be someone else there at guard who's a starter. Whether it's a first-round pick, second-round pick, or someone in free agency, there has to be another guard there.
But out of all positions on the offensive line, there has to be a new right tackle.
Yeah, I'm not going into next year with Matt Parrott. Like, he could be the backup, Like, there has to be a new right. I think that should be priority number one this offseason, and that should probably come through the draft. And there should be a lot. Supposedly, I haven't gotten deep in the draft stuff. We did our early draft week. I really liked Evan Neal and Kenyon Green. So we're not going to get too deep into what we're going to do in the draft right now, but I just don't think Matt Parrott's going to prove to be the right tackle.
Yeah, the Nick Gates situation really is a huge damper, and I'm never going to doubt him, right? Because he's an undrafted guy coming out of Nebraska, where he played tackle, and then he converted positions twice, from guard to center, and he was even playing tackle in the preseason too. Then he suffers a season-long ending injury in 2018. He suffers that injury, and then 2019 looks like the best lineman on the team in a Jet versus the Jets. 2019, where that line was absolutely terrible, but he looked like a bright spot. And then 2020 changes positions, and I'm never gonna doubt him. But at the same time, the Giants have to. If I am the Giants, you have to kind of, as of right now, go into next year thinking that you're going to be without him, which really does stink. So
a better answer to the question though is maybe not next year, but like a year, the 2023, which offensive lineman on this team is like, all right, he should be here for that. Andrew Thomas is the only one.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Next question.
Tim Coffey. We suck. So time for conjecture. If we all had desired pieces to the offensive line healthy and playing like we expected, Thomas, Gates, Lemieux, would we be 5-3?
No, we would not be 5-3. So Denver, Washington, the Rams, and Dallas, they don't win. Dallas, you can make an argument that maybe they get, but it was too big of a point differential. Daniel Jones went out. I'm not going to do the butter. Like, they lost by a lot of points, so I'm going to say no. The Chiefs, I do think they would have.
I agree.
Like, Chiefs, I feel confident that if they had Andrew Thomas, they would have won that game because there would have been a more aggressive offense versus a really bad defense where they should have been aggressive anyways, but that's just not how Jason Garrett's brain works. The Falcons is a maybe, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? The Falcons we're missing their cornerback 1 and their wide receiver 2. So the Chiefs is really the only game where I'm confident being like, yeah, if we were healthy, we would have won that game.
Yeah, there were 1, 2, 3. There's been 4 games out of 8 games this season where Daniel Jones' pressure rate has been above 20%. Against Washington, 42%. And this is according to Pro Football Reference, by the way, which obviously we've said it over and over again. They probably estimate pressures the way that it should be versus Pro Football Focus. They overestimate. So 42% of pressures against Washington. That's where Daniel Jones is holding onto the ball. That's ironically enough a game where they created a lot of explosive plays and deep passing plays down the field. So if Daniel Jones is getting pressured because he's holding onto the ball, manipulating the pocket well enough to get rid of that ball, sure, fine. The next game was against New Orleans, another win, 20.9% pressure rate, so that's fine. That's about average. 35% against Dallas. I mean, we all know how bad that offensive line was that game. And then against the Chiefs, it was around 24%. And I do think, and it was 24% when Daniel Jones was releasing the ball, 2.5 seconds average time to throw. So that's bad. That's pretty darn bad when Jones is getting rid of the ball so quick and the pressure rate is still above, it's almost 1 out of every 4 passing attempts.
Yeah, so Chiefs is really the only game where I feel confident if they had not even like Andrew Thomas, like just the presence of Andrew Thomas. Because, last year, right now they're not trusting Matt Parrott or Nate Solder, which is smart. But like last year, even through Andrew Thomas' struggles, like they let him struggle, and that's something I give the coaching. Like they let him, like they didn't try and overcompensate and give a ton of running back tight end help. Like no, they let him get better through it. And Andrew Thomas is a better player for that. With Matt Parrott and Nate Solder, they're not really like which I agree with because I don't really have. I don't want Nate Solder. Obviously, just sucks. Matt Parrott could be something decent, but it's like I don't have. Like I'm not giving Matt Parrott that freedom to grow through those struggles.
Right. Yeah, so I agree with you with the Chiefs.
Next question.
Glock Roach, what are the qualities that you look for in a head coach, and how does Judge match up with those criteria?
I think this is my favorite question, and we could spend the most time on this if we want, even though it may not take the longest time. On the count of 3, your number one thing.
Oh, God.
1, 2, 3.
Offensive play caller.
Yep, that's the number one. It's the number one. It's the most important thing in the NFL. It's the way you call your offense. Yeah, it's the most important thing. Like offensive play calling. That's why I'm out on Judge, is because that's the biggest issue with Joe Judge right now is the offensive play calling. Like I have so, and I put out a poll, and I feel like the poll answered it fairly correctly. Because, 4th down decisions, time management, and then now offensive play calling is like, that's kind of what is getting called out with Joe Judge. To me, offensive play calling is far and away that issue. And the 4th down decisions, I disagree with strongly, and we have a question about that specifically. But, like, at the same time, Sean McVay is maybe the most conservative 4th down coach in the NFL right now.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan's always pretty conservative, too. Yeah.
But it's like offensive play calling is the difference maker for me. And there's some other things we want to talk about in here. But the offense, and it's like, can I be honest? The time management stuff, it just doesn't move the needle for me. Like it should be criticized, but like that has no bearing on my opinion of Joe Judge.
It's a concern because the Giants don't score points, and every single game they're in, it's a close game at the end, so the head coach needs to make those decisions. Like there's no such thing, and that's why the Carolina game was such.
But do you think that's like an incompetence thing, or like I just to me that is like I feel like a lot of head coaches have that issue.
Yeah,
like Andy Reid was hated for that. McCarthy. I mean, they're like there's a lot of like great coaches who, when they get looked at, it's like I feel like it's just kind of like I feel like it's the easiest thing to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, especially with timeouts, right? Because it's like, well, this is what I would do, and this is what I would do, and this is what I would do. At the end of the day, you said it best with comparing him to McVay, and Shanahan's another guy that's gotten a lot of heat this year for not going for it on fourth down, even though the way the 49ers are a different conversation too. I would still take Kyle Shanahan as a coach, neither here nor there. They have offenses that put up points at enough of a rate where you don't need to worry about whether they go for it on fourth down or not, because you have confidence in those offenses that, hey, next time they're in the red zone, next time they're at midfield and it's a 4th and 3 from their own 47-yard line or from their own 50-yard line, next time that it's a 4th and 1 inside the 20-yard line, you have confidence that they can get back there again. Versus the Giants, there's no telling next time that they're going to get a red zone opportunity and be 1 yard away from, picking up a first down inside the 5-yard line.
Next thing, and I've actually changed my opinion on this, and there could be examples like Kevin Stefanski's stuck in his system, but it's like it works, especially with what Cleveland's personnel is. But I really don't want a coach that's stuck in his system. Like when the Giants, like the last head coaching hire, I kind of liked Wink Martindale, but the more I look back at it, I was like, I don't think I would like a Wink Martindale type anymore. Where it's like, oh, he just blitzes, like this is what he plays, his type of defense. I think he is a personnel guy. Like, James Betcher is a personnel guy. So
yeah.
But essentially being moldable with your scheme to your players. Now I get there's Kyle Shanahan's and Kevin Stefanski's who have these great offensive systems, but being moldable and that's what that's why I like Patrick Graham. We got some Patrick Graham questions later. Being moldable in your systems is another one for me. I don't want to go through my whole list. Do you have like anything else on your list?
No, that was going to be something that I talk about John Harbaugh, right after they drafted Lamar Jackson. That I feel like they could have easily done something where it's like, okay, we're going to use Lamar Jackson conventionally. We're going to use Lamar Jackson in 2021. The way that they're using him this year, they could have easily said, we're going to use him like that his rookie year. But they really kind of babied him along where, you know what, we are going to maximize his legs. We are going to be a team that is going to be a very, very run-heavy team and sparingly throw the ball and selectively throw the ball. It's almost like a reversal of roles from the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Where the Kansas City Chiefs, they selectively run the ball. Baltimore Ravens, in years past, they selectively threw the ball. And that's because you have Lamar Jackson, who was an unconventional type of quarterback, but they have developed him into a very, very good passer. I mean, Lamar Jackson is a very, very good passer. They are one of the league's most explosive offenses, passing offenses this year. That wasn't the case in the past. They would be maybe average, middle of the pack. But not only do they have the running game, with Lamar Jackson and whatever running back is starting for them that week, but now they've integrated that explosive passing game. And it's taken a long time. And that is what they've done, John Harbaugh, Greg Roman. They have formed their scheme and formed their identity based off of the personnel, not the opposite. They adjusted.
Yeah. My next one, and this is where I think Joe Judge might be the best, is how you connect with players. You can have, Joe Judge has a very tough message, but I think Joe Judge does a great job of getting that to players, where like a guy like Matt Patricia was horrible at it, lost guys early, where, right now we should be hearing about players hating Joe Judge with as hard as like his training camps and stuff are. And you just don't, after losing a lot of games and being 1-7 last year, you haven't seen that type of stuff with a roster, especially on defense, that has a lot of vets. So connecting with his staff. Now, maybe you could disagree with that with Garrett a little bit. But that's another one for me.
Being a people person, which I do agree with that is in both with the media.
But not being too much of a people person,
Yeah, where you
don't be Nick Sirianni, where you're like, oh, I'm just one of the guys and I wear, Allen Iverson jersey. Like, you don't want to be, because then you'll become a pushover. That's, you'll be like Ben McAdoo, where he's like, I'm never going to try and piss them off. And then whenever you do need to put your foot down, you get like, it just goes out of control. Yeah.
I think there's a value to being a people person and a good communicator, and that comes with both your players and the media. And because I think there's a value in Joe Judge's introductory press conference. Sorry, I do, because when we believed in Joe Judge, we still used that introductory press conference as like, hey, these things he's following up on. So I do think that there is a value to how you can communicate your message to fans, and then also how you can communicate your message to the team itself. So,
and then who they learn from is like, I think that's important.
O-line coach, that's that's the big thing too.
Yeah, good O-line coach. There's obviously other things that we missed up on. All right, next question.
Next question is coming from Milo at Milo Pond. Are we doomed to be in a cycle of hiring new GMs and then waiting a year and firing a head coach and then going through the cycle without ever actually starting fresh?
I think that's what's going to happen, and that's what worries me. I feel like, it's going to be there. And it's not necessarily that, Joe Judge is going to be back for another year, because if they get a different offensive play call, and there's a question later, but like if Joe Judge fired Jason Garrett, like I would be back on Joe Judge, not fully, but like I'd be like, okay, I feel good about you. But it's just the idea. It's like, okay, well, they're going to hire a GM for Joe Judge, and it's like, what has Joe Judge done to deserve that?
Yeah. It's getting
that's
very.
Where I get bothered.
It's getting very Adam Gase like.
Yes.
And frankly, I mean the Jets. I understand they had a terrible, pitiful start too, but at least the Jets went 7-9 in a year where they fired their GM and they kept their head coach, and then the head coach was, whispering on the golf course to Woody Johnson about what general manager he wanted. At least they went 7-9 that year.
We went 6-10. So that's like, what has Joe Judge done to deserve to pick his own GM, essentially? Which
is going to happen. I'm fairly confident in it. I said it last show. Just reading Ronan's article, which we talked about that Jordan Ronan article where he just listed Louis Riddick and then a bunch of other GM candidates. Reading that article, which didn't necessarily have a lot of insider info, I think it was a lot of just like opinion and kind of, bringing names out there to attention. And then just reflecting on it, I think Mara likes what Judge has done, and seeing the amount of control that, I don't want to say control, but level of input that he's been given during his first 2 off seasons, I think he's staying.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes, even though I think we both disagree with it.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next question.
Next question.
And it's not to say that not next question. It could, like, Joe Judge isn't like stupid. I know we're all mad at him, and it's like, I think he's, Ben McAdoo's better than this. Like, I don't buy that crap. I don't think Joe Judge is stupid, but I disagree with his offensive philosophy. That's the biggest thing, and that's the most important thing to me, and that's why I want to fire.
Yeah.
If the offensive philosophy was changed, I would want Joe Judge to stay. Now I hate the cycle thing, so it's not to say that it couldn't work out with Joe Judge, but I do think Joe Judge needs to make some changes to his philosophy.
Yep, I agree.
Especially with offense. Next question.
Sean McKay at SP McKay 31. At what point do we throw out analytics based on league-wide percentages / historical data and look into the Giants' percentages of actually converting on 4th down / in the red zone? Numbers say to go, but they also tell us these situations are not a strength of the offense.
You want to know why, Sean? That's his name?
Yes.
Because you're 100% wrong. Wrong. That is totally wrong. It's not based in reality. And I had this argument with Mr. Carl Banks, where he said, those analytics don't have a heartbeat. You know who does have a heartbeat? Daniel Jones. That's who has a heartbeat. And when I want to bring up a stat for you, some little numbers about Daniel Jones and the Giants on 4th down. On 4th down and 5 or less in the last 2 seasons, when the ball was put in Daniel Jones' hand, they converted 8 out of 10 of those. Now, that's a very low number, but they converted 8 out of 10 on 4th or 5 or less, which is when you would go for it on 4th down. You want to know what the 2 ones they didn't convert were? 4th and 1 QB sneaks, where it's really not in Daniel Jones' hands. It's in the offensive line hand. So when it's actually like Daniel Jones make a decision to either run or pass, he's 8 for 8. 8 for 8. Someone give that number. Someone give that heartbeat of Daniel Jones to Joe Judge and Carl Banks and anyone who wants to disagree with that. Please. because that QB gets it done on 4th down when he's given the opportunity. And there's others on 4th and like 8s and stuff like that, but I kept it to the 4th or 5 or less because those are realistic chances to go for it on 4th down.
Yeah, so reversal of roles here. Bobby's gonna give you some really good numbers. That is, I think that's the answer. That's the rebuttal there. But I'll give you kind of my heartbeat sense of it. Sean, I'm willing to throw the analytics out the window right now. But at what point do you view what the Giants have done in 2020 and 2021 in terms of their approach to scoring points, right? Because that's the name of the game, scoring points. At what point do you take that and take that approach at face value and say it's just not working?
What game have they lost that because they went for it on 4th down?
Yeah. And what game have they won? I would say besides the New Orleans game. Besides the New Orleans game where I think there was one like 4th and 7 with like 7 minutes to go and they were down by 2 scores and Joe Judge punted and pinned New Orleans down. And I think that was like a see that works moment. But what was there, and that wasn't even a decision like on game day, Bobby. That wasn't even a decision on game day where I'm like, you're down by 2 scores, 7 minutes to go, and it's a 4th and 7 at midfield. I'm not complaining to go for it.
I was.
That was one where I wasn't, and I'm the big analytics guy. But neither here nor there. At what point do you take their approach at face value and just say it's not working? It's not leading to wins. It's not leading to scoring points on a consistent basis. So yes, you can still say, these situations, they're not a plus. The Giants are not at a plus strength, right? They're never at a point of strength on the offensive side of the ball. Never. Not one time. So that's why you have to be aggressive. Because like I said earlier, you don't know the next time you're going to be in a situation to possibly put up 7 points if you're the Giants offense. If they were a high-powered offense, if they were an explosive play offense, you know what? Maybe I'm okay with being a little bit more conservative. But because they're not, I don't know the next time they're going to be in that position. Hence why Joe Judge against the Cleveland Browns, which is a game where Joe Judge got killed for because of how aggressive he was on 4th down. He got killed that game. Why were you so aggressive? Why not just take the 3 points? Why not take the 3 points? I think he knew that was the one game of his coaching career where he prioritized scoring 7 over 3 points. And I liked it.
And Daniel Jones is 8 for 8. Like, it's a lock when he goes from 4th down. And then now the next one that's 4th or 5 less, he won't make it. But guess what, guys? Sometimes you just got to gamble. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has a Week 5 offer every football fan should jump on. Week 5. When is this ad from? I'm reading the October 5th ad. How about that?
Don't do that. Read the November 4th ad or 3rd ad.
Are you going to leave all this in?
If you want me to, I certainly will.
We'll see how we are with time at the end.
I mean, you gambled by clicking on October, thinking that you were in November, and you failed.
November.
What is that Willy Wonka? What is that Willy Wonka quote? You failed. You played yourself. I've said that twice now.
He didn't say you played yourself.
No, he did not say you played yourself.
It's an old movie. You're mixing up DJ Khaled with Willy Wonka.
That happens. Probably not the first person to do it. Probably not the last.
And this one's about the World Series. Well, guys, the Fall Classic was upon us. An official sports betting partner of the 2021 has a no-brainer offer you have to take a swing at. So just go and bet. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also get skin in the game this World Series with the same game. You can do same game parlays on everything. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. Simple. You guys understand it. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JOHNBOY. Bet just $1 on any game and win $100 in free bets if either team gets a hit. That's promo code JOHNBOY at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the 2021 World Series. That is over. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only, one per customer. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Major League Baseball trademarks, copyright, are used with permission of Major League Baseball. Visit MLB.com.
UFC fight this weekend. Bet on that.
Yeah, bet on that. Next question.
Next question. Casey at Casey Cy Brandy. If Garrett was fired and the offense improved, would that change your minds about what happens next offseason?
Yeah, like we said before with I'd feel better about Joe Judge. But I just wanted to do that question so we could talk about Jason Garrett. And it's like he should be fired. Like they went into that coaching they went into this past game scared. They were scared of getting sacks. And you just can't score points consistently scared of sacks. I don't care if your offensive line is bad. The Chargers had a bad offensive line last year and they scored points. The Giants had a bad offensive line in 2019. So it's not to say that you're going to have some good offense, but you know what they did in 2019 versus bad defenses? They put up a ton of points. And the Giants just don't. Again, we are 24 games in, they haven't scored 30 points. And I brought my stat that I do every week of plays that have 2 routes of 15-plus yards or more and plays that have 1 or less. On the 2 or more, Daniel Jones was 6 of 7. That's a very low attempt, 86%. 112 yards, 16 yards per attempt. On the 1 or less, 16 to 25, 64%. 4.4 yards per attempt. He had 2 less yards on 25 attempts compared to 7. Again, and if you do the more big stuff, the quick stuff works better. It's so frustrating that this is where we're at. We're coaching you went up against a bad Chiefs defense and you put up 17 points.
Yep.
I don't care if the offensive line's bad. They were not the Panthers. They should not have been coached like they were the Panthers, and that's the way they were coached.
Yeah. Some of the games where it's been decent this year or when it's been good, it's been okay, fine, good, still doesn't score over 30 points. But the games in which it's been bad, where I would put offensive play calling and game situation decision-making for the Chiefs, and then also especially for the offensive play calling and schematics and the game plan against the Falcons. I mean, those were 2 games, especially the Falcon game, where that is such a bad team. They were a bad defense, but that is a game that you should have won. And especially coming after that Washington game, performing so well on the road and then going home, performing so bad. And then this past week going up against another bad defense, and you make them look like a top 10 unit, and that's just unacceptable. There is no taking advantage of like what a defense gives you for the Giants. Like everything just has to go perfect. And if it doesn't go perfect, then it doesn't work. So
24 games, still haven't scored 30 points.
Sickening.
Pathetic. He should be fired during the bye week. He should be fired now, but the bye week is more doable.
But he's not going to. He's going to make it the whole year.
If he comes back next year, it will ruin the whole entire offseason for me.
Yeah.
There's not one thing the Giants... Keeping Dave Gettleman would feel better about the offseason than Jason Garrett being back.
I genuinely do believe that if Jason Garrett was not the coordinator, and really, even if somebody who was still conservative, but just wasn't this bad, I think Judge's job would be saved. I think Gettleman's job would be saved. I really do. I genuinely believe that. And I know that's not what everybody wants to hear. Gettleman does deserve a lot of blame. I mean, everybody deserves blame when, over the last 4 years, like we said, Gettleman 2-6 record is tied for his best record through 8 games. Like, that's bad. Everybody deserves blame for that. But I wholeheartedly believe that if Jason Garrett was not the offense coordinator, Joe Judge's job is safe. Everybody's job is safe.
It's the offensive coordinator is the second most important position in football after QB. And if your QB is not top 5, it might be the most important.
Fair. People don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. That's why we talk about it over and over again, because we were the first to talk about it last year in 2020, and it's still a problem, so we're going to talk about it every week because it's the biggest problem of the team. Tom Lemmy at TomSU44. Thank you for the great work on the film with the O-line. 2 questions. What does Daniel Jones need to show the rest of the season to confirm for you he is the franchise quarterback?
I cut out the second question.
Oh, you cut out the second question. Sorry, Tom. Good first question.
I think we answered it. Or we're going to answer it.
Good first question.
So, let's just talk about Daniel Jones with this question. let's it's the midway point of the season. Let's talk about Daniel Jones at midway of season 3 and where you feel about him. And I put out a tweet on after the game, and this is where I feel. I feel good and not great about Daniel Jones halfway through the season. There's been strides. Like, his pocket manipulation is really encouraging. Let's peel back the layers a little bit. He essentially had 0 sacks on Monday night. Because the first sack was on an RPO where they were both covered, and it was and he's just like, all right, I got to give up on the play. I can't hold on. Like, he just ran forward, like it was in the red zone, so like that's not a real sack. And then the last 2 were on the final drive of the game where it's like he cast a stand in there for that, like, to make that work. There's no check down in those situations. So like when it can be controlled, he really had 0 sacks. Like, his pocket manipulation is beautiful. His completion percentage is up to 64.1%. Yards per attempt 7.1. 7 touchdowns, which sucks. Like, it really does suck how low that touchdown number is. And we just talked about Jason Garrett.
It's better than last year.
Yeah, and then 3 real interceptions. 5 in total, but three real interceptions. So yeah, I feel good. You have some great games like the Saints game, the Washington game, the Panthers game. The Panthers game was good. I don't want to call it great, but like good, like games where you felt really good about them. Some average games like the Denver and Atlanta, we didn't score a lot of points, but it's like, come on, point to the Daniel Jones plays that were so brutal. And then the Rams game was bad, and then I do classify the Chiefs game as bad, even though it wasn't like. It was very much like it's weighted by a couple of plays, but it's like, those plays matter, especially
when they cost you
with
7 points.
Like, you got to know what the circumstances are at this point of being under Jason Garrett. So I feel good about Daniel Jones right now. But here's what I'll say about evaluating him, because some people will say you can't evaluate him, but it's just a difficult one, man. Like, and you can't say he's great until it's great. Like, you can't say, oh, he is for sure the guy until he's for sure the guy things happen. Which is basically winning a bunch of games. Whether that's fair or not, like, that's reality.
Yeah, the only unfortunate thing for Daniel Jones is that he's up against the clock.
Yes, big time.
We're in a league where you get 4 years, and the 5th-year option, if you pay a guy, if they, that salary goes up to some $20 million, $22, $24 million for that 5th-year option. It's not the biggest deal in the world because
it's a 1-year deal. I would if we were making the decision right now, I would extend it.
Yeah, it's not the biggest deal in the world because it's a 1-year deal. But after that, then you're talking about, now you're talking about getting, $20, $30 million a year for multiple years, and that's a much different story with guaranteed money tied to it and bonuses that are split up throughout the life of the contract too. So that's a different story. And Daniel Jones is up against that clock. And right now, I don't know if I would give him that. I probably would lean no, simply because...
Yeah, but you don't have to right now.
No, exactly. But, gun to my head, which is a fun exercise sometimes.
I wish.
I wish. Gun to my head, it would be no right now. And I would, look to other alternatives, cheaper other alternatives while we build up this roster around that QB position. But luckily, we don't have to make that decision. And I want him to be here next year. I especially want him to be here next year for whatever changes are made, because there are going to be changes that are made, whether we like it or not. Jones is either going to sink with them or he's going to thrive with them. So I want to see him given that. I wanted to get him that opportunity.
The only way I don't want him here next year is if you get an opportunity at like an Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson type, and even then I'm not trading the entire farm for those guys.
Yeah, and we also don't have enough cap space for that.
Right. So I want him here next year.
Yeah.
But this is where I feel like, when it's like, well, why do you feel good about Daniel Jones? They're 2-5 and he has 7 touchdowns. If you want to play the other side of it, is, something we've talked about is like, does Daniel Jones need everything perfect around him? No. But right now he's 0-4. Bad offensive play caller, which is the biggest issue of all. Bad offensive line, like from entire left to right. Bad wide receiver core because of injuries, offensive line due to injuries too. And then no running game, which we usually kind of forget, but it's like the running game does matter, but he has no running game, like a pitiful running game. When Daniel Jones had 1.5 of the 4, which was a good wide receiver core, like the Saints game, the Washington game, he had a good wide receiver core. If you got Kenny Galladay and Shep on a team, or Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney on a roster, that's a good wide receiver core.
I agree.
That's that's a good wide receiver. So he had a good wide receiver core, and then he had the left tackle good. Left guard through right tackle were bad, but the left tackle was good. So when he had 1.5 out of 4, he was balling. Like, the Washington game, balling. The Saints game, balling. Not making mistakes, going through his progressions. I know people do the one read thing, but I feel like that's so overblown because a lot of the offense is one read stuff. Now, the Chiefs interception
we did the numbers over the offseason when the PFF puts out the QB annual, which is really, really good. I think like some 67 to 70% of all NFL passes are thrown on the first read.
69% are, 70% of DJs were.
Got it.
So yeah, he's right there, and the offense is very much predicated on that. Now the interception against the Chiefs,
can't have it. That
was like he's staring the receiver down. That's unacceptable type stuff. But it's like we hadn't really seen that stuff. But if you go through the film this year, and I do it in the film review, like he goes through his progressions. That Chiefs one was really bad. Like the Rams interceptions were bad, but it's like, all right, this is where he got baited into it, The Chiefs one was just like, this is too stupid to be explained away. So but when he has 1.5 of the 4, like he's been good, and I don't want, and sorry, but QB wins are not a QB stat, and if you want to look at the perfect person for that, is look at Matt Stafford. Consistently bad with Detroit, like consistently bad. A couple good years in there, but even then, it's like they lost first round of the playoffs. And he had some good. There was a year or so where he had a really good roster around him. Had Calvin Johnson, but never could win. And look at him going from last year, the last few years with Detroit being like not a young QB, but like a vet QB, and now he has like the best team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, playing at an MVP level. So I actually was listening to Dan Orlovsky. He went on the Giants guys show, and he actually said something that was very much in contradiction to what a lot of people say about the quarterback position, which I kind of disagreed with Dan, but Dan also played the position, and he played on very bad teams also as well. Dan said that the quarterback position is one that is predicated and centered around being dependent on everybody else. And Dan's a respected guy from ESPN. Had a little bit of a bad eval on Daniel Jones at the start, but respected guy from ESPN that I feel is a pretty smart guy. And when he said out, just flat out, that quarterback is the most dependent position on everybody else being good around him, that's something that stuck out to me. So there you go.
Offensive play caller is the biggest thing. We talked about it like 20 times this episode.
Yeah,
like I could deal with bad players. I can't deal with not even a horrible, like bad, like the worst in the league offensive play. Who Orlovsky has said as well, and I agree with.
Yeah.
So, guy didn't call plays for 10 years. We hired him as offensive coordinator. We're stupid. All right, next question.
Saint at X Saint. Should the Giants sign Odell with the banged up wide receiver core they have if he were to become a free agent?
Back in the news. It's Odell. I'm not going to do a whole Odell rant. If you want to hear like my real genuine thoughts on Odell, search on YouTube. We clipped it from a podcast last year. I think just like search Talking Giants Bobby OBJ, and it should be on there. I shared it with Talking Giants Patreon a couple weeks ago. It's kind of funny that like the last few years, like Eli can do no wrong, everything else is fault people. And now it's like the same thing's happening with Odell. Man, this is way worse than it was with us in New York. Cleveland just doesn't. They're like, dude, stay away. Like this was obviously like some planned, coordinated stuff with his dad. Even LeBron James, as crazy as that sounds. But no. But I will say that if Odell winds up with a good playoff team on like a very like short-term deal, not a long-term deal, where it's like, all right, we can move on if it doesn't work out. I do think he'll add I think he would add a lot to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But not us. No, not us. No, I would
No.
I would be pissed off at that decision.
No, Giants don't have the
I don't
cap
like
space.
Odell. I don't want Odell back.
Number one, Giants don't have the cap space. Why would Odell want to come back here? Why would Dave Gettleman want him back here? So, no. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. Baker's not having a good year, where honestly, this isn't even me being a Giants homer bias take. I'm kind of more confident in Daniel Jones right now than I am in Baker Mayfield. Now, Daniel Jones, I don't know if he fits that Brown system necessarily, but Baker's a guy that's supposed to fit that Brown system by getting him rolled out into space and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm kind of over it. Odell's not a Giant. He's not going to be a Giant. He hasn't been a Giant for a long time. And he's not good. That's also, he's not good.
People are going to point out that he gets missed on some open passes.
He was a locker room problem. He was emotional, did some bad stuff, whatever. The interview, you could debate it till the cows come home when you're good, but when you're bad, there's no debating it. So I don't understand why.
But no teammate has ever said anything bad about Odell. I mean, yeah, or the Browns basically saying to stay home, we don't want you. Yeah, but no one's publicly bashed him. Anyways, I don't like Odell. It's clear.
I could just care less. I don't want to spend my energy on that.
I was right. All right, next question.
Bobby was right. Hashtag. But what we do need to talk about first, Bobby Skinner, we need to talk about the Candlewick Diner. Candlewick Diner, East Rutherford, New Jersey, just 5 minutes away from MetLife Stadium. Full-service bar, in-house bakery, free delivery. So guess what? If you're looking to get Uber Eats, DoorDash, you don't need to do that. If you live around the East Rutherford area, don't make them deliver really far. But if you live around the East Rutherford area, they offer free delivery, which is awesome. The extensive menu from breakfast to burgers to steaks to pasta. Favorite thing on the menu, it's unconventional, but I like it. Pulled pork, eggs, Benedict. I'm a sucker for hollandaise sauce. They make like some nice home fries, slice the potatoes really thin. You put a little salt on it, put a little drizzle of ketchup. Mwah, chef's kiss. The diner is frequently attended by numerous Giants players and will be celebrating their 52nd year in East Rutherford, October 26th. That has already passed, but you can still celebrate their 52nd anniversary and run into some Giants. It's a chance that it could happen. Raymond Johnson likes to go there. Rodarius Williams, guarantee you, he's getting a rehab meal. Jabril Peppers, he's getting a rehab meal there. Those guys they like to go. A lot of the rookies like to go. So Quincy Roche had a really good game this past week. He actually attended the diner twice within the last month, I think in October. Manny, shot me some DMs. It's like, hey, Giants players here, Giants players here. So I got those updates. I'm like, oh, that's really, really cool. So if you want to eat and dine where the Giants go to the Candlewick Diner by MetLife Stadium. And I also want you to go to their Instagram page at Candlewick Diner. That is Candle, common spelling, W-Y-C-K Diner for great specials. CandlewickDiner.com for online ordering and menu. And next time you're at MetLife, do what the Giants do and head over to the Candlewick Diner.
Love Candle. I can't wait to go up there and grab a bite to eat.
Yeah.
When I'm up there. Next question.
Next question. It's coming from Research Rick, NYG fan in Charlotte. Based on what we've seen transpire from the end of last season to now, what do you think Patrick Graham visualized for the 2021 defense? What he requested from the coach and GM on desired personnel types? And finally, what's gone wrong and right since the beginning of the season? So let's just start off with, what do you think Patrick Graham visualized for this 2021 defense? What do we think?
Basically playing a lot more man coverage. And doing the two high safety stuff. Like that was what it was, The biggest issue with that has been the lack of pass rush. Like with, there was zero, it's gotten a little better the past couple weeks, but there was just zero pass rush from your edge groups. And it's like you can't play man coverage with zero pass rush. You got to at least have some pass rush, and they weren't able to do that. And then doing the too high stuff. And then what went wrong with that, what I think, is the misuse of Jabril Peppers. Like that is my biggest gripe with Patrick Graham through the first half of the season. Like you misused Jabril Peppers. He should have had him down in the box as an extra defender, playing the flats in coverage, and you kind of just weaned him out a little bit. And when you did bring him in, he wasn't playing that role. You didn't use him as a pass rusher. You didn't use him as like a disruptor in the gaps, playing the alley as well. So misusing Jabril Peppers. But he's gotten better. Like you're getting back to some more zone stuff now, playing two QBs and Darnold and Mahomes, who are very downfield oriented and both have bad footwork. You can get away with some of that zone stuff. So we'll see how they do versus Derek Carr, who could make, Derek Carr could carve this defense up next week, and I won't be surprised. So basically it's like, I'm disappointed in where the defense is at overall, but I still do think Patrick Graham is a very smart coach and is going to be a good defensive coach in the league for a long time.
Yeah, I would really like to know. Have a time machine, go back in time, be a fly on the wall inside the building, what the Giants thought of their edge room and what they thought of their unit as a pass rushing unit. I was never sold on O'Shane. But did they really think that Lorenzo Carter, Azeez has been, I think, even more than what we've thought. Did they think that Dexter Lawrence was going to take much more of a jump in terms of a pass rusher? Leonard Williams is doing, he's not getting the QB hits and the pressures that he was last year, but he's getting the sacks. He's getting the sacks at the same rate. He's had a really good last 3 games. I think the last 3 games he's had at least a sack. So, what did they think of this edge room? Because really, I think Patrick Graham wanted to run a defense of a high blitz rate. Week 1, that blitz rate was like 40%. Right now, the Giants' blitz rate is down to 24.5% on the season, and that is around mid-tier. So I think Patrick Graham, to start the season, wanted to be a lot more blitz-heavy, wanted to mix his 2019 Miami defense, where they blitzed a lot, played man coverage, but played single high, but they wanted to mix in the Brandon Staley approach of playing too high to prevent the explosive play, and playing man coverage on the front end. Preventing the explosive play would marry the things that he did well in 2020, along with the things that he wanted to do in 2019 with being an aggressive defense and getting after, with the quarterback and having the secondary and having the belief in the secondary that they can do it. And none of those things really played out like he wanted to, largely because I think it starts with, if you blitz those guys and they don't get home, teams are going to run play action. Teams are going to run those crossing routes, especially in the intermediate part of the field. You're going to get beat with yards after the catch, and that's kind of like what happened. But now, like Bobby said, I think he's gotten back to marrying what he did in 2020 with playing more zone while also playing the too high stuff, and I think he's done that pretty well the last 2 weeks. The Giants right now, they've made a jump in DVOA, and defense adjusted value over average. So the Giants have made a jump to 14th in the National Football League in terms of being 14th most efficient defense, which is pretty good. 2 weeks ago they were like in the mid-20s.
Trying to think of where I want to go with this.
But them not getting that edge room and not evaluating, because I know Research Rick is really big on right now just how the Giants have evaluated themselves over the offseason and certain personnel decisions and not coaching these guys up. Go ahead.
That's what I wanted to hit on. I love the Adoree Jackson signing. I love that type of signing. But here's something they should change with their approach personnel-wise. Stop looking for types with outside linebacker edge. Look for pass rushers.
Yeah.
Like I was so scared they were going to take Azeez Ojulari in the first round. And I know he's good value at 50. But I was so scared they were going to take Azeez Ojulari in the first round because edge was a huge need, and he's the best. He was the best like scheme fit. It's like, so that would be my, and we've seen it with the way they used Marcus Golden. Stop looking for, if you can get your type, that's awesome. If you're looking for like bargain free agency signings like a Kyler Fackrell, get your type if you're going for bargain free agency signings. But like the draft, when you approach the drafts, look for the best pass rusher. Stop looking for don't pass up on Von Miller for, whoever. Look for real deal pass rushers. You guys are going to turn into really good pass rushers. Stop looking for types.
Yeah, that was a critique that I had a while back too. And you have to, almost, because the Giants are going to do it, we almost changed our expectations about, we should expect this from the edge spot in terms of the Giants going out and getting this guy. Even though this may be a better football player, we know the Giants would never sign that guy because he can't drop back into coverage. And ironically enough, O'Shane Ximines can't drop back into coverage, yet he's a guy that kind of rely on. Quincy Roche should definitely start over him.
Yeah, I've liked Quincy Roche. He's never going to be some great pass rusher, but he's played well. He's done all right. He's had a good amount of some good plays. He uses his hands really well, and he's got a really high motor too. I like Quincy.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Bull Bitler. Is there any realistic expectation we could see Graham and Jones be retained? In other words, could another GM come in and want another head coach, but then force Graham and Jones onto the new coach, or is that something that just doesn't happen?
I don't think it would happen. If Judge goes, Graham's probably going to. I mean, they're extremely tight, and if they're bringing in a new head coach, I don't think they're going to be like, all right, but keep this defensive coordinator.
I think the only time that it happened was Kellen Moore. Can't remember the last time it happened.
Yeah, and that offense was balling,
Yeah.
and that's Jerry. As much as we talk about Merritt, that's Jerry Jones too. So yeah, I don't see that happening. Next question. Let's go quick through these last two.
Wes Locke at Wesley Westigles. How would you rank the following reasons the season is a failure, excluding Dave Gettleman's roster construction, which I would put that kind of close to number one. So how would we rank the following reasons as a failure for the season? Skill position, skill player injury/play, offensive line injury/play, the offensive philosophy, in-game situation/play calling, lack of pass rush, and Daniel Jones.
So, is it wrong to maybe... I was thinking about maybe picking pass rush at first, because at least we weren't expecting the offense to be good, but we were expecting the defense to be better than what it was. Or am I getting too cute with that? Should I just say offensive philosophy, number one?
No, my top three, I could alternate 1, 2, or 3, and I would be okay with it. Anybody could alternate between 1, 2, and 3, and I'd be like, yeah, I agree with it.
Offensive philosophy is 1 for me. I'm not going to get cute with it. It's what I truly believe.
I have offensive line injuries as 1, because when you saw when Andrew Thomas was balling that the offense was okay. And
then I had offensive line injury at 3, and then pass rush at 2.
I have offensive philosophy number 2 and lack of pass rush number 3. But like I said, I alternate any 3 of them, 1, 2, or 3, and I'm not going to disagree with you.
4, I got skill injury.
4, I have in-game situational and decision stuff, because I do think that if you're a little bit more aggressive in some in-game stuff, even without those skill position players, I think you may come out with the win.
I actually have that last.
You have that last? So I have skill position injuries number 5. So you have Daniel Jones 5? I have Daniel Jones 6.
I think if Daniel Jones doesn't throw that interception versus the Chiefs, that for sure they win that game.
I think if we are more aggressive on 4th downs on 2 separate occasions, and the coaching allows Daniel Jones to overcome those mistakes, then I think we definitely win that game.
I just don't want to put Daniel Jones last, and it's just like, well, you guys think everything's wrong with Daniel Jones.
Well, I'm not forcing those assholes to change how I think.
I know. But at the same time, it's like, I think if all those other things are better, that the situational stuff's not that big of a deal. But I guess it's not. So, all right, you're right. Last question.
Ultra depressed Giants fan at Big Blue NYG News. What is the best way we as fans can stick it to Mara?
Finish the question.
Not buy tickets, not buy merch.
Nope.
We need something to kick him in the ass and realize this is not okay.
Down MetLife Stadium. That's the answer. It's the only option. Sometimes violence is the only answer.
I'll be there.
That's an episode. We'll be back Friday, previewing the Raiders game. See you then. We appreciate you guys. Until then, let's go Big Blue.